Welcome to Mr. Brown's Basement, a channel devoted to sharing the craft of repairing, restoring, and modifying vintage electronic gear, and other random stuff. Today we're going to be looking at the Bell and Howell 2394A cassette tape recorder. This is a machine I picked up for not a lot of money, but I thought it was really interesting because the microphone is like something out of space. You can't see how high it goes, but it really goes quite high. It was sold to me in not working condition. I have an idea what's wrong with it, but we won't know until we open it up. Well, let's just take a look at the machine. It's your average cassette machine in many ways. There's a place for the cassette. When you press play, it stays down. Fast forward, it stays down. You can't press record without releasing the right protect over there. And then you press both at once. It would be recording if it was working. And stop. There's a volume right over there. Over here, we have a place for the microphone and the earphone. Usually it says MIC, but this one says mic, M-I-K-E. On the bottom, it says 2394, serial number whatever. It uses 5 watts or 6 volts DC. And it was made in Japan. So before I fix anything, I want to have an idea of what I might find. I went online and I got a copy of the Sam's Photo Facts. And I usually keep a copy not too far away from me on the workbench so I can refer to it. What usually goes wrong with these machines is the belts that connect the pulleys together. The belts get sad or they disintegrate. And sometimes some of the electronic components fail as well. But whatever we find, we'll deal with it. Just to give you a little bit of a history of the cassette tape format. The cassette tape format was invented by Philips around 1963. It was not a very good format when it first came out. And I would place this machine between about 1970 and 1980. How do we get into it? Well, first of all, we make sure we're not plugged in. We're not plugged in. Usually on the bottom there are some screws, and I count 1, 2, 3, 4. There's often one hiding in the battery compartment. Yeah, 5. And just for safety, what I do is I keep all the screws in a small container so I don't lose them. And if the screws are different, which they can be, I'll make a diagram and make sure that I know what screw belongs where. Unfortunately, there's some deep gouges in the case. Couldn't do anything about that. That's the way it came. But it is a 50-year-old machine, so we can't expect it to look brand new. Let's get into it. Well, I've removed all the screws. This very long screw goes right over there. 2 intermediate length screws go here and here. 2 chrome-colored screws that are short go here and here, and a brass short screw goes inside the battery container. The case won't open while this microphone bracket or assembly is still attached. Usually the Sam's Photo Facts will tell you how to take it apart, but this one doesn't. You simply use a screwdriver and pry it over here while pulling it forward, and then it does come out. Here's the inside of the machine. Let me zoom in a little bit here. is the motor with a pulley, and the pulley doesn't look too bad, maybe a little bit weak. Going past this roller here to here. Then there's another pulley over here, and well, let's see what happens. Just don't touch anything around there. It will be live. Something is turning. Okay, let's try it in fast forward. The motor is turning, but nothing else is happening. No. The belt is just slipping. Just slipping. You see, it's trying to go, but the belt is just too weak. I expected the belts would not be in good shape, so I ordered some belts online. You have to get the right belts for the machine. I'll put a link into the description where you can get a good cross-reference for different belts. It's very important that you get the right belt, not just the right belt size, but also the right belt shape. Belts come in round, square, and flat, and probably other shapes too. And this tape recorder uses two different belts of two different sizes and shapes. So you have a small one, which is round, and you have the big one over here, which apparently is square. To get into this machine, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to take out the printed circuit board, and I think we can pull that out. That's good. It's non-standard. Looks non-standard. And then we will have to remove probably a bracket that keeps the flywheel, that's this big piece over here, in place. So let me remove the screws for the printed circuit board. I've removed one screw over here, which had an insulating washer, and two screws from here and here, which had just a lock washer. But the printed circuit board will not come out until I remove this section over here. It's held on with two screws. I've taken out those two screws, and now the board is actually free to move. But I can't actually flip the board over unless I desolder some of the wires. I think I want to flip the board this way, and to do that I'll have to desolder this shielded wire, which probably comes from the tape head. Just to make life interesting, this screw over here, the head is stripped. It's going to be a moment or two before I can take that screw out. I might have a similar screw like this somewhere in my collection of screws. This plate is held on with a spring. I'm not going to unclip the spring if I don't have to. On the underside, you can see a small screw head, and it's threaded on the top. So this needs to be unscrewed to remove the pulley. When you get it back together, just make sure that that wire spring catches the bottom, so this is springy. And later on, this little piece here that sticks out has to catch something in the machine. I've got it back in, and I've got that tiny C-shaped piece hooked on the knob as it should, so that when this is slid over, the whole mechanism responds. That just leaves the main belt, which should take no time at all to go on, and to put plate and the screw, hopefully a replacement screw, and the spring back together. Now the two new belts are on. I've replaced this screw that was stripped with another one which is the same size. It's always a good idea to collect screws because you never know when you'll need them. And no point to over torque the screws. Right now we're ready to put the printed circuit board back in and resolder these three connections and see what happens. Hopefully good things happen. Just one thing to look out for, and that's this. This is a mechanical linkage from the record switch to a slide switch on the printed circuit that tells it whether to go into play mode or record mode. This must be engaged, or else you won't be able to record or you won't be able to play back. I'm just waiting for the soldering iron to heat up so I can resolder the three connections. Red over here, white in the middle, and the shield at the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a small puddle of solder onto each pad, and then I should be able to heat the puddle and dip the wires into them and let it cool. The wires are already tinned, so they should stick just fine. Here goes. Let's stick in a cassette. Hopefully there's something on the cassette. And I guess we need some power too. Power always helps. Okay, maybe there should be something on the cassette. Okay, so it does play, though the volume control is dirty. Let's see if it fast forward and rewinds. That sounds good. That sounds good. Just a matter of putting a little bit of cleaner onto the volume control. It might be a little iffy just the way they've got the knob mounted. But I should be able to get some in there. Bad news, I'm out of control cleaner. All I have is contact cleaner. It's not the same stuff. I'm not going to clean the control with the wrong chemical, because that's a good way to destroy the control. So what I'm going to do is put it back together. It's plugged in. Let's rewind. Sounds good. There's the microphone assembly. Let's see. It's quite a good size extension on this microphone. I've rewound the tape, and I noticed that it doesn't have a mechanism that determines when the tape has rewound. It just sits there and waits. So I actually had to stop it. I guess this wasn't quite deluxe enough to have that feature. So when you record on a cassette, you can't start recording immediately because there's about 10 seconds of what's called leader tape. I'm going to start playing until we can hear that we've actually passed the leader. Beatles on there. We can't play that. YouTube will get upset. But we can record over it. Let's go into the microphone here. You have to press play and record. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing.
He's a real...
Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. I guess it works. Just a matter of putting the microphone back on to clean up that control a bit. And of course, polish up the case. It's taken maybe an hour and a half. I'll put a link to the cross-reference for different belts, and I may do a video on determining the size of a belt. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening or a good day.